plant community, thanks for tuning into this channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Pam. And for those of you that keep coming in and joining me on my planting journey on a weekly basis, thank you so much for coming back. And welcome all to Curiosity Grew to Plant segment, where I take one plant out of my collection and we just talk a little bit about it, find any interesting facts along the way. So you guys, a few months ago, I say about 2 months, maybe a month or two ago, I'm not sure, I brought a Schefflera. And when I brought this plant, you guys, as I often do from time to time, not so often, I go against my rule of thumb and I just buy the plant, but I know absolutely nothing about this plant. But what I do know is I wanted to have the joy of trying to grow this plant from a small specimen such as this right here. And even if I fail, I figure, you know, okay, I didn't spend a whole lot of money. I believe this plant was less than $5, so no harm, no foul. But the benefit and the bonus that I get out of the deal is, even whether or not the plant succeed or fail, is that I learned something along the way, and that's more valuable to me than a $5 plant. So let's just jump right into it. First, let's talk a little bit about Scheffleras. They're considered to be a common household tropical plant that's also commonly known as the umbrella tree or possibly the star leaf. Now, they're also native to South Asia and some parts of Australia as well. Now this plant, you guys, I found out is mildly toxic to humans, but seriously toxic to your pets. So that's something that you may want to consider or even think about if you have furry babies of your own. This plant can also grow between 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide indoors. But this plant is also able to thrive outside as well. And of course, in outside environments, the feet as far as height and width is astronomically much bigger than what we're able to accomplish at home. Now this plant also thrives in zones 10 and 12, and I live in Maryland, and I believe I'm currently between zone 5B and 8A. So let's just jump into some of the care tips. So the soil, you guys, as always with tropical plants, they do prefer a well-draining soil, and from what I can see, the soil has this soil has a lot of perlite in it, so I'm quite sure it's right there where it needs to be as far as the drainage. Now, humidity. This plant will thrive in high humidity, at least 60%. So that's another thing that you may want to consider when buying this plant. Now, as far as temperatures as well, once again, we cannot ignore the fact that this is a tropical plant, and all tropical plants for the most part love that nice warm temperature. So for this particular baby right here, it prefers to be at least in 60 degrees Fahrenheit, between 60 to 90 degrees. Now the light, this plant loves bright light, or medium, I would say more or less medium light. So the light should be bright but not directly hitting the leaves, because the leaves are thin, so it would possibly burn the leaves. So I would be very careful with the light when it comes to this baby. Now repotting, they're recommending to repot this plant every 2 to 3 years, or at least until you see huge root growth in the bottom of the pot, such as the roots actually growing through the pot, and then that would be a good time to repot. But I think that they do fine when you can find the roots. So if you want to also control the growth of your plant as well, holding them in a smaller pot or letting the roots get tight usually does the trick. Now I think I didn't touch on watering. Now for me, you guys, you know, because I know I can be a heavy waterer from time to time, and I particularly want to let this the soil dry out completely before I give it a drink. Now, from what I've seen, just from doing my little research here and there, watering this particular umbrella plant is debatable. Some are saying that, hey, you should probably water this plant when the soil is at least 50%, between 50 to 75% dry and then give it a good drink. But I'm not 100% sure unless I see this plant decline. Now, you guys, let me touch on something. We covered those bases, and if you remember all the things that we just discussed as far as soil and humidity, temperatures, and things like that. This plant right now I currently have is sitting in my bedroom. I'm not 100% sure what direction of light it is receiving, but it is sitting directly in by my window, so it's not getting direct light, but it is getting some bright filtered light. So also as well in my room, I don't have a humidifier, but I would say the average humidity in my house is at least 50%. But usually between 49 and maybe 51% if I had to go by the thermostat thermometer that I have. So I think maybe because of that, I'm not sure if that's the reason why I am starting to experience a small problem. And I'm about to show you, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, of course, when you first buy plants, any plants, they tend to want to get acclimated to your environment because they came from the greenhouse, wherever they may be, and so they've traveled a bit, and now their environment has changed. And as everybody change or whatever, everybody doesn't take well to change, as well as plants, and so sometimes they will act out and they may drop a few leaves here and there, and that's typically normal as they try to adjust to their new habitat. So what I've noticed, and I don't think this is an adjustment to the habitat, I think it's something that I'm not doing, and I just want to show you guys this, because at first I was going to trim it up and make it look all pretty, but if I'm not learning with you guys, it's kind of like pointless to even me doing this whole channel to begin with, in my personal opinion. I'm about full disclosure and learning, and hopefully getting tips from you guys too, because, you know, I don't know everything as far as the plants. I'm still continuously learning along the way, and, you know, talking to you beautiful plant people, I get to hear experiences from you. So, you know, let's be real. We all don't have all perfect plants in our collection, and if someone's telling you that, they are telling you a fib. So but anyway, the lower leaves, I just pulled it off. It is crispy and dry. Now, brown leaves, let's talk about that for a second. Brown leaves, from my understanding, of course, with, I guess, most plants or most tropical plants, you want to consider certain things with brown leaves. But since we have talked on the basic part of the plant care or things to consider when we're caring for this plant, brown leaves can mean a few things. One, not enough water. I'm thinking that may be what I am doing, because I do have a habit of letting my plants completely dry out. But one of the things that I've learned in the past, especially with my small babies, is I do have to water them, I think, a little bit more often than I think. I treat sometimes my small plants the same way as I would do my larger plants. And I think I need to get out of that mindset, because I have to realize that this is a small pot, small planter with very little soil, which means it's going to dry out a little bit faster than my traditional 5 to 6 inch pots. So I need to be a little bit more mindful of that. Another reason for brown leaves is also the humidity. Now, once again, the only humidifier that I have is only in here in my sunroom, and that's, you know, for me, in my mind, I'm thinking the plants that's in here is like prime real estate, the ones that I know for a fact that will probably drop at least the majority of them. So I'm not sure if I need to test that theory out to see if in fact it is actually a humidity issue, and just bring it in here and just see what happens. I may just leave it in here and see if I'm going to experience any type of additional dry leaves. Now, a third reason, which I know I'm not doing, but a third reason why for you guys, if you happen to have this and you're experiencing the brown leaves, could be too much fertilizer. So we want to keep in mind, I do quarter strength. I do that, be honest with you guys, I've never upped my strength even in the growing season. I've just been okay with the quarter strength, and that's because I'm using synthetic fertilizer. Now, that may not necessarily be the case if you're using organic, because organic fertilizers, and I believe I did touch about fertilizer and the benefits of it and things to consider. in another earlier series of the Curiosity Grew the Plant. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, I'm gonna see if I can link it down below and you can check it out. But you don't want to over fertilize your plants because that can do more harm than good. We think sometimes that if we feed them, it'll push them or stimulate them to give us the beautiful leaves that we're all anticipating as plant growers, but sometimes that may not be the case. So we just want to keep those things in mind. Now let's talk a little bit on the opposite spectrum of it, outside of the brown, crispy, brittle leaves like I'm experiencing right now. People also are experiencing yellow leaves. Now what could the yellow leaves actually indicate? And I'm sorry guys, I'm kind of pulling this stuff out while I'm talking to you because sometimes this is just so y'all let me know, cleaning up your plants when you see like dead debris, is that like mentally satisfying to you? Because it is to me in some weird way. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I'm just cleaning it out. I'm like, I feel so much better. So I don't know, maybe I'm a little weird, but let's jump into I'm just, I can be so silly sometimes. I'm so sorry, guys. But this is me all day long. I promise you that. But let's talk a little bit about the yellowing leaves. Now, yellowing leaves, as with most tropical plants, can also indicate too much water as well. And I believe, let me go back because I don't think I've talked about that for the brown leaves. Brown leaves can also be an indicator of less water and, well, not enough water and too much water. And too much water, basically at that point, when if the leaves are getting brown or brown and black, and you notice that your soil is wet, more than likely you're about to enter the root rot phase if you're not already there. So that would be a good time to actually pull your plant out of that soil and take a look at the roots and check it out and see if that is the case. I want to say more than likely that would be the case. For me, I know mine is just, I'm not watering my plant enough because my soil is just super dry. But let's go back to the yellowing leaves. The yellowing leaves, if you start seeing yellow leaves, like I said before, from time to time as your plant acclimates to your environment, the lower leaves can become yellow. That's common. But when you start seeing rampant amount of leaves just turning yellow all at once, then you know that it's more or less a watering issue, because that's the plant way of surviving or trying to save itself, sort of speak. They will push out all as much as they can the excess water out through their leaves, and it will turn the leaves yellow. So you want to be mindful of that. This plant is also, from what I've learned, is very sensitive to change. So I'm thinking about this plant almost similar to my Ficus benjamina. I hope that's not the case. I'm kind of, that's another reason why I'm kind of debating on whether or not if I should bring this plant in here, because if the plant doesn't like the environment or not used to the subtle change, it will start dropping leaves left and right, at least the lower leaves. So this plant really does not like to be moved. So I think, because for me, at least now that I know these things and I'm learning these things along with you guys, since I know now that, okay, one of the issues that I'm having is I'm not watering, I don't think I'm watering it as often as I should. I think before I move it from out of my bedroom and into this whole nother environment where it's much warmer, where the sun is much more intense, where there's a humidifier in here, that's a subtle change. Think about it, that's a subtle change from inside my house where it's getting filtered light. It's not as warm in here. It's not as warm in my home as it is in here, as well as the humidity. I don't want to shock it and then it makes it worse and then the leaves fall completely off. So I think what I'm going to do is, my first thing is I'm going to try to just be mindful to water this plant a little bit more and just see if that's the issue. If that's not the issue, then my next step would be to actually bring it in here, and hopefully the humidifier and maybe more brighter light and being more in a more humid environment may be exactly what this plant needs. Now, one thing too, you guys, if you ever make changes to your plants, any plants you really have that may be struggling Be patient with your plants and remember to give it time. Don't just, okay, I'm going to up it with the water. I'm just using it as an example. Don't just say, okay, I think it's a watering issue. Let me start watering this plant on a more consistent basis, and you just give it a week. Please give it a little bit longer than that, because if you start making all these multiple changes, I believe if you start making all these multiple changes, like moving it in a room that has humidity, changing it from one lighting source to the next, watering a little bit more frequently than need be, or more frequently than you have been doing. If the plant thrives or survived, you're not going to know what's causing it. So I recommend, if you're going to make a change, make one change to the plant and really give it some time to see, okay, is it helping the plant or is it not helping the plant? No, give it a little bit longer than a week or two. I say personally maybe like a month, maybe 2 months, just to see if you see any changes. Our plants, they will speak to us, but sometimes as plant parents, we want them to do what we need them to do today, and sometimes we just don't have the patience to wait to see what they're willing to do for us tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm not by all means, you guys, a botanist or anything like that. So please also, too, take everything that I say as a grain of salt, but the information that I'm sharing with you is information that I'm going to be using for my plant care. If it works for me, great. Of course, I'll share it with you. And if it doesn't work with me, great. I'll share that as well. We also want to keep in mind, too, we have different environments. Some of you live in climates where you don't even experience all 4 seasons, where in my case, I tend to. So, these are all things that we need to take into consideration. So, yeah, so I'm going to take what I learned today and with you guys and apply it to this baby, and hopefully I don't kill it. But also, too, I will also pay attention to what's actually going on with the plant and try to really tune into what this baby is saying to me, because I've been wanting to get a Schefflera for a long time, and to be honest with you guys, I did come across bigger specimens than this. But because I knew at the time when I brought it, I didn't know enough then. And I didn't really want to bring a bigger plant in my home without having any knowledge about it and thinking that hopefully I'll make it successful and it'll thrive under my care. Because you want to keep in mind too, some of those bigger plants have longer time to be in greenhouses and acclimated very well to those conditions. Where in my personal opinion, like a smaller plant, they've been in green homes too, but just not as long. So I think sometimes, depending on the plant, the transition may be a little bit more, not as abrupt as with our larger plant baby. So that's another thing that we want to consider as well. So y'all comment below. Let me know, you guys, if you have a Schefflera, any pitfalls that you may have experienced, or any thriving conditions that you may have your plant in. And yeah, let's just start another conversation about how we too can learn together. So that pretty much wraps up this video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Keep in mind, if you love foliage as much as I do and you love listening to planty things, please subscribe to this channel. Definitely continue pushing up those thumbs. That really helps me out. I appreciate your support. And you guys, y'all enjoy your day wherever you are in the world. And until next time, guys, much love. Bye.